So while there's no shortage of leaks and rumors around new Nintendo Switch hardware, it is very rare to actually get somebody in charge at Nintendo with at least some level of authority, like a title of president, actually go on record and say anything in terms of their thoughts or ideas around the next generation Nintendo hardware. And in today's video, I want to break down and discuss Doug Bowser's most recent comments on new Nintendo hardware and specifically deep dive into what his role really is within the company, because I am seeing a lot of varying opinions online, essentially of the mindset that maybe this somehow confirms that the Switch 2 is nowhere in sight, or new Nintendo Switch hardware is now off the table for the foreseeable future. And we need to go over exactly what, if anything, these comments mean when it comes to expecting new Nintendo Switch hardware anytime soon. What's up, nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below. Hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. Now, as I mentioned, guys, today we are once again talking about new Nintendo Switch hardware, but this time not any kind of searching on the internet and finding loose hints and leaks or rumors or insiders that have talked about it, but rather one of the heads of Nintendo Corporation themselves, or rather Nintendo of America, President Doug Bowser, just had an interview very recently where he was asked some questions around the new next generation hardware. And I did say it in the previous video, as we get further and further into the Nintendo Switch's life cycle, we will definitely see this topic not decrease in popularity, but increase. And the reason just simply ties to the amount of time that we are now at in the current Switch's life cycle. It is natural for people to be wondering what is next when we are running a Tegra X1 chip that was produced in 2015 and is still running all of the modern 2023 games that are now coming out today. It's okay to have questions around when it might be time for Nintendo to transition, especially in light of month-over-month declining sales, and it's not falling off a cliff by any means, and there's still a ton of people who don't have a Switch who may go get one for the first time. But if you're somebody like myself who bought it on launch day, you definitely can look around and see the age of the hardware and realize that 6 full years have passed. And if you've grown up playing every Nintendo console as it comes out, you may realize that that 6-year plus time frame without getting an announcement anytime soon is actually a rarity for the company. The other reason this article is blowing up and gaining a lot of traction online has to do with something that Nintendo, I think you can argue, sometimes gets in their own way with, which is feeling like they have to do something drastically different or reinvent the wheel each console generation, and they don't feel like it's the start of a true next generation unless they have some kind of crazy gimmick or idea to get you to buy the new console. And when you have such a successful formula as they have today with the hybrid form factor, you really don't want to see Nintendo steer too far off this course. They are definitely on a great path if they just double down on the exact trajectory they are on with something like a more powerful revision of the Switch and make it backwards compatible. And one of the particular comments has scared some people around that from Mr. Doug Bowser, but again, we will tie into exactly what his role really is here and why this shouldn't be concerning to many users out there at all. But to first get on the same page with exactly what's been said here, let's quickly hop over to Nintendo Everything and read through their detailed typed up article together. Nintendo very bullish on Switch, confident in strong performance over the next few years. In an interview with the Associated Press, Nintendo of America President Doug Bowser was asked about the Switch's successor and what he'd like to see. However, Bowser opted to discuss Nintendo's current system and why the company still believes Switch has a bright future ahead. According to Bowser, Switch sales remain strong with a very strong lineup coming. While Nintendo has nothing to announce about the future, the company is still feeling very bullish regarding its current platform. He added that one of the reasons that even going into year 7, we feel very confident that the Switch can have a strong performance over the next few years is that it is still truly that unique device that you can play in a variety of ways at home and on the go. Bowser's full comments can be found below. As we enter the 7th year for the Nintendo Switch, sales are still strong. I think we still have a very strong lineup coming. As Mr. Furukawa, Nintendo President Shintaro Furukawa said recently, we're entering uncharted territory with the platform. It's exciting to see that demand is still there. So nothing to announce on any future console or device, but we are still feeling very bullish about Nintendo Switch. I should be careful about what I would personally like to see in a new Switch. But what I can share is that one of the reasons that even going into the 7th year, we still feel very confident that the Switch can have a strong performance over the next few years is that it is still truly that unique device that you can play in a variety of ways at home or on the go. One of the things we look at is how we can surprise and delight. How can we introduce new unique ways of playing? That's always in front of our mind. So the first thing to really drive home with this entire interview and topic is who Doug Bowser actually is. And who he is the head of Nintendo of America. Who he is not is actually a driving force in the company in terms of the direction and the strategic planning behind where they are going and what they are doing next, whether that be new game plans and announcements or things like new next generation hardware. Nintendo of America is very much a marketing branch to essentially hype up, translate out, and push forward any messaging that Nintendo wants to share with its fan base over here in the North American region, and that is about where it stops. Is there open feedback on how things are being received here in the local North American market? And those kind of meetings are taking place between Mr. Doug Bowser and Shintaro Furukawa and the other boards that run Nintendo Co. Absolutely, those conversations are happening, but they are not in the core of Nintendo's business models or strategies when it comes to brainstorming new ideas. That stuff would absolutely more fall under Shintaro Furukawa himself and the direction that he wants to take the next generation hardware, with of course an entire team of talented people around him to help him come up with those ideas and execute them. But the other thing to take away from this interview, besides realizing that Doug Bowser is not the person that has the authority to reveal this kind of stuff to us or make the decisions himself, it is also the fact that this is a very PR statement at the end of the day. It is more him sitting down at an interview where he knows a question like this is going to come up, and what would he say? Well, yeah, we're into the 7th year now of the Switch sales, and we're not feeling that great. We're seeing some month-over-month decline. It's not looking near as strong as it used to, and in fact, if you want to know my thoughts on new Nintendo hardware, well, I actually can't wait for it to come out because we just recently started mass manufacturing of the chipset. We're getting the things in place for the next console that we really think will carry us through for the next 5 to 6, 7 years from now. Not only does he not have the authority to say anything like that, you will never find anybody out there at a high level of Nintendo communicating a message like that until they are ready to launch it with their own trailer and have all the marketing prepared. Going out on a limb like that and revealing things that aren't approved by the marketing department and that aren't approved at a company level would just cost you your job, and clearly these guys know where they're at and where they stand and where their paycheck comes from, and they are not wanting to do that at their level within the company, and Nintendo knows that. So unfortunately, this particular interview I don't think can really direct us in one way or another on how Nintendo views the current Switch's life cycle. The only one comment that I will say is just slightly concerning, even for me, is just Nintendo's focus on always trying something new and creating new, unique ways to play. Does it work out in certain generations? Absolutely. But my whole stance on this is that I think it would be far too soon to scrap something like the hybrid form factor and come up with some new wacky idea on how we're going to interact with games when you still have a very strong winning formula with where we are at today. And I think the mass majority of Switch gamers, the 120 plus million units that have been sold so far, would happily go out and buy a much more powerful model that can just run the games that we know and love today at a much better and more effective frame rate, in addition to resolution, and has backwards compatibility for our Switch games today, and is just more future-proof for new stuff that's going to be coming out around the corner, and more third-party support, not to mention the type of graphical leaps that you can take in first-party Marios and Zeldas out there that Nintendo will continue to create. But with all of the different reports around hardware, manufacturing, the NVIDIA Tegra T239 that we just talked about in yesterday's video, all of these different things popping up online, I definitely think Nintendo is more in the gearing up and getting ready phase for next generation hardware than not. And I actually do think it's sooner rather than later. It doesn't have to be 2023 to be considered soon. I don't think that we go through all of 2023 and all of 2024 without some kind of new, more powerful model Switch. Whether it be a true next generation successor or a incremental upgrade, I think it happens regardless. What we will have to wait and see is what is that next new unique idea Nintendo will bring to market. It might be AR or VR focused, or maybe they're going to bring dual screens to the Switch and say that that's something new. Who knows at the end of the day with where they are planning, but I wouldn't be alarmed by these comments, and I also don't think that it says that they're going to bet their farm on the Switch for the next 4 to 5 years. It's just not a viable strategy, and I don't think they'll do it with year-over-year declining sales, and this is more of a PR-driven response of things are great, we're feeling good about the trajectory that we're on, and they should, because there is still plenty of demand for the current model Switch today. When they do a price drop on this thing and launch a new console simultaneously, we will see a whole nother resurgence of new unit sales from multiple demographics of gamers, where you'll have people who are buying something that is far less of a entry price point at something like $150 for a Switch Lite, maybe $200 or $250 for the base model or OLED, and then we get into that $400 price point most likely for the next gen. That is a entirely possible lineup that could be a killer for Nintendo over the upcoming 5 to 6 years. But I really want to hear from you guys at this point in the video, your personal thoughts and opinions around this story. Do you think that the weight of Doug Bowser comments mean anything at all, or do you think it is more of one of these generic PR responses and people really shouldn't read too into this stuff? And what do you personally think Nintendo is planning in terms of next-gen hardware? Is there a world where they don't come out with a Switch 2 and they actually go to something entirely different and maybe even separate off a handheld device and a home console once again? Or do they stay the path that they are on and just give us that more powerful version of a Switch? And if that is indeed the case, when do you think we see that happen? So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, which is on screen right now. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.